this stuff. Just the text. Oh, perfect. No, I'm good. Yeah.
Hi, Andy.
Hello. Sorry about that. We had a school board budget meeting, so just coming from that.
So part of my role today is I'll be taking the minutes, and then also one of our first items is to be electing a new chair for the APC. And so I'll just chair the meeting until we get to that point, and then the new chair can take over. And I thought just to start, because we have a big group here, let's just go around and say our names, then everyone can know each other, and I can also capture it for the minutes. So I'm Dana, I'm the staff person for the regional district, and I'll pass it over to Eileen.
Eileen Kuznetsov, and I'm a guest of the Area I APHC Community Plan. Guest, or how do we call ourselves guests? You guessed, I guess.
Hi, I'm Marcia Estrella. I'm also a guest of this table from Pass Street.
Art,
Hello.
sorry, Art,
Art,
did you
yeah.
say? And your last name, Art?
Sperling.
Sperling.
Bill Lovely, just an observer.
Bill Lovely.
Yep.
Thank
Like
you.
it's,
I'm Adrian Lovely.
Adrian, thanks for coming.
Andy Davidoff, RDCK Director at Area I.
Lucy Martin, part of the youth association, son of the youth committee.
It's Dennis Wagner, I'm from Shore Acres, and I'm a commissioner. Andy Woodrow from Glade, I'm a commissioner too.
Brian Devilman, present chair of the APC, retiring.
If you let.
The APC.
Or so you think.
That's right, so. Somebody want.
Quinton Sperling, I'm just here to see how this process works and see if I have to have any input or not.
Okay.
Brian Sperling.
And Ryan, you're the applicant, right?
yeah.
Okay. And was Rose coming tonight?
No,
Mike is.
And Mike is?
I am
And you're
Mike
also,
Gagnon. Yep,
and you're the agent, right?
I'm the agent for the application, yes.
And was Daniel coming, Steph said?
He's
He's not gonna make it. Okay.
no.
Oh, that's
Oh.
terrible.
He's okay, but.
Okay. That's a good reason. That's a good reason not to show. We'll give him that.
And online, did you just want to let us know who you are so we can capture it for the minutes? You're on mute in case you're trying to talk. If not, we can come back to you in a minute. Okay. All right, thanks everyone. So as you can see, RDZK tries to meet in a hybrid model, so we can be as accessible as possible to the public. It's not perfect. It can sometimes be a little awkward or clunky, but we persevere. And so if it does get a little weird, that's why. So I'm gonna call the meeting to order at 6:37. And the first thing we're going to do is call for the election of the chair. And so Kelly, Andy, and Brian, one of you is eligible to become the chair. You can nominate someone, whoever you feel would be good. If you accept the nomination and there's no one else, you can be chair by acclamation. If not, we can do an election.
Brian?
I'll stand.
Okay. I could second that. If it needs to be in
In
the form of a motion.
Good.
You don't want to arm wrestle or no?
How many years have you chaired,
Play every year.
Brian?
That's the way it is.
25. Too many.
I saw the agenda item. I thought you asked to leave your seat. So I'm just happy this is just an admin thing, an annual admin thing, then your buddies keep nominating you for it.
Brought it up a few times.
Okay, well, congrats, Chair.
You could provide.
Congrats, Chair Bevelman. I'll pass it over to you for item number 3 on the agenda.
just acknowledge and respect the indigenous peoples within these traditional lands we are meeting today. Adoption of the agenda. Oh, second. First Andy, second. Everyone received the meeting, the minutes? Any changes? Additions? No? Okay. Staff report. The development variance permit application. Arthur Sperling and Teresa Sperling. Everyone got the referral package and thanks for it. Okay. Yeah.
So we have Michael and Ryan here today. We can give you the floor to just describe your proposal. If you have any questions about their proposal, feel free to ask the applicants. If you have any questions about the RDCK regulations or what the application is for the variance, I can help field those as well. And so we'll give you the floor to introduce your application. And like I said, the committee will be asking questions and then discussing among themselves and making a recommendation to the Rural Affairs Committee and the board. There's no decisions being made here
Right.
today.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. Everybody's met me, I guess, Michael Gagne. The application for the Board of Variance to, for Ryan Sperling to put his primary residence on the parcel that is more than the allowable distance from the main residence of the house. I guess is the variance that we're asking for. There's three, everybody's got the package, everybody's read the package. Rather than me go through it again, is there any questions up front that we have?
Yeah, I think it would really help if you walk through what this is.
Okay.
And why this application is here and why you need the support of the planning hearings.
Okay, I think, yeah, I'll start with why we need the support, I guess, because it is a Board of Variance and we need your guys' support going forward. But as everybody can see from the map, there's Art's primary residence is built on the, I'm gonna say the north side of Pass Creek Road, and the very small section of agricultural land that's available in front of that house. There's a water line and a septic field in front of the house. And it doesn't offer the opportunity to put a secondary residence in that location before it drops off down into that floodplain. Across the road, on the south side of the road, there's where the application is for the variance is applied for. There's water, sewer, a septic field that was put there, who knows when, quite a while ago, that is being utilized at this time by the current motorhome that's in place there, or the travel trailer that's parked there. There's water and sewer that's already set up there. That was put there. I'm not too sure when. I don't know if we actually have an exact date, way back when. It also doesn't interfere with the low-lying lands down below or the floodplain. And across the road from Art, there was some discussion in regards to putting it directly north of Pass Creek Road on the opposite side of the road, but there's an existing hayfield there that they currently use. So we'd like to not disturb that in the agricultural land reserve, obviously try and save some of that. The current spot that we are asking for is a gravel pit, and there's not a whole lot of topsoil there. The, I guess, east of that is a big landing clearing that has now been, all the trees have been removed for agricultural purposes. So whether they turn that into a hayfield or whether they just, I'm not sure what the future plans are for that piece of property.
Depends if I can farm it or not. If I can live there, I can farm it. If I can't live there, I may as well go to town.
Yeah. So, yeah, the rest of the property above that, up on the hillside, as well as access on the other road. Sorry, help me out what this road is. Pilcheck Road. If you go up Pilcheck Road, you can access the piece of property from there as well, but it's all rocky and there's no water up there. There's no services up there. Quentin lives just down the road from the proposed site, and
We share the same driveway, same utilities, same everything. And my sister is actually a farmer. She's federal and provincially recognized as a cattle rancher. So, and we're in total support of this being approved.
So there's an easement that goes through that end of the piece of property, and
It's a 66-foot wide easement for utilities and access. So
And-
it's been there for over 50 years.
and it accesses Quentin's property through a gate at the very end. sorry, I lost my train of thought. With that, I guess that allows the utilities to be right next to our proposed location without any ground disturbance or any other disturbance in the area. So that was our hope.
Thank you. That's great.
I guess, is that okay, Andy, or would you like some more explanation?
I think staff can provide some additional information here.
Okay.
Sure.
So I know when I received the package, we had never received a variance application like this in 40 years. So this was new to all of us. And these are really large properties, and we usually have variance applications dealing where you have a encroachment in a setback or, you know, something like that. So we never see an application like this. Or the APC has never seen an application like this, and I haven't seen an application like this, and I've been on the APC for 15 years before I became director. So the key thing is that I think it's really important that staff give us a really clear thumbnail summary of why this is required. Because we know that AOR rules have changed for secondary residences. We know a whole bunch of things have changed, so why do the Spurnings have to do this application?
Okay, yeah, I can answer that.
Because that'll help the APC then determine next steps.
Right. So Director Davidoff is correct. You've never seen a variance for this before. These regulations came in about 2019, 2020. And the intent was as part of our implementation of our agriculture plan and agriculture policy review, we adapted these regulations into our zoning bylaw. And the intent really is to preserve as much area of the lot for agriculture as we can. And so the first variance you'll see is to a farm residential footprint. And so the intent of that is everything that's not a farm use, you know, your shop or shed or garage, your house, any accessory dwellings, your septic fields, tennis court, swimming pool, what have you, is clustered together instead of spread out on over the lot, because then that leaves more room for the lot for agriculture. And similarly, the next one is the setback. If you site those uses closer to the property line, then you have less construction such as utility lines, driveways, things like that, bisecting through the property. And again, you're leaving more room for agriculture. And finally, the last one, again, permitting a smaller accessory dwelling, confining that footprint. So again, not only to conserve the land base on the property, but also the more you develop on a property, the higher the cost per acre goes. And so it can make it more difficult for farming. Now, the thing about the zoning bylaw is you bring in these regulations and they're general. They won't always make sense for every lot. We can't write a regulation that makes sense for every lot. And that's why we have this variance process. And so the applicant is coming forward today saying it's difficult with the floodplain for us to follow these regulations. And also if we're looking at this through the lens of developing this lot in a way that protects agriculture, we want to preserve the hayfield across the road. We have a developed site that's already disturbed and has servicing. And so we want to confine the development over there. And so the applicant is saying, we can't meet these regulations, but we can vary them in a way that we think, or they propose, would still support farming, to maximize the farming potential on that lot.
Okay, so I've got a few more questions with the chair will permit it.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so there's no issue under the current legislation and our bylaw for secondary residents to be placed on this property, correct?
No, they are permitted an accessory dwelling. It's just the floor area that they're asking for a greater floor area.
Okay, and how much greater floor area?
To
It's 2,000.
136 square meters, whereas the bylaw permits a maximum of 90 square meters. And this trailer is not within the agricultural land reserve, so the agricultural commission's regulations aren't applicable as far as footprint or anything. It's just our zoning bylaw. That's where they run into the difficulties.
So staff has no issues with the secondary residents or with these variants. What's staff recommendation on this?
I can't speak to that. It's Stephanie's file. So I can't speak to what staff's recommendations are. It wouldn't be fair. I don't know if she's come to that yet.
Okay.
But I think that from my reading of this, I think the applicant has presented good rationale of staying out of the floodplain trying to preserve that hayfield and picking a site that's near an easement already, and as well as in a disturbed area already. And this application's been out for referral, and I don't think we've received many comments back
Yeah,
yet.
that was my next question, because the application went out, was referred on January 31st. So we are now, usually, 30 days is the minimum for responses. And I'm just wondering do you have information about any agency saying this is an issue, or anybody saying it's an issue?
Not to my knowledge, but all the comments would come forward in the staff report to the Rural Affairs Committee.
Because it's kind of hard for the APHC to, usually we get more information about concerns. Like, it's nice to see all the agencies that's referred to say, there's no impact, doesn't bother you, this is fine, proceed like highway, everybody. And we don't have that in front of the APHC right now, because we're kind of asking the APHC to make a recommendation on something in a vacuum.
Well, I think the APC is one more referral agency,
Yeah.
right?
But usually there's more information for the APHC to make a recommendation to the board.
Okay, if you want to continue the meeting, I can log in and see if there's any comments.
Yeah, that'd be great.
What, this new building site, the increased, building size, rental from 90 to 126.
36.
Yeah, 136 square meters.
136 from 9, allowed 90.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. I'm not really dwelling on the size. I'm just kind of wondering, I don't know this area at all.
Yeah.
What kind of a neighborhood do you have around you? Is this all open land?
It's all open
Yeah.
land, yeah. It's all open land, and the 136 square meter footprint, we have to remember, is not just the house. That's the entire footprint of the driveway, a proposed deck, maybe. We left room in case Ryan wants to put a single car or 2-car garage on this end of the house. That those aren't in the works, but I want to make sure that the footprint is big enough that we don't have to go through this process again down the road. So the 90 square meters is a fairly small footprint when it comes to a house. I don't think that Ryan's picked a monstrosity of a house. I think he's picked a fairly decent sized house. For a small family, I think it's a perfect sized dwelling. I think it's a 3-bedroom.
Yeah, 3-bedroom.
Yeah, 3-bedroom house. Rancher style. So yeah, small footprint for the house, and then maybe a small deck out the front, and that's about the extent of it.
Well, in this area, we haven't really seen problems with houses being overly large. We've seen outbuildings being
Yeah.
extraordinarily monstrous
Yeah,
and tall and everything in between.
Yeah, so again, for the APHC, and Dana could correct me if I say anything that isn't accurate, because this is all new to us. The concern is that on smaller parcels in the ALR, the footprint of a residence and accessory buildings and driveways and everything else could absolutely destroy the integrity of that property for agricultural purposes.
Yeah.
So that's why it's probably aimed at smaller lot sizes than this vast acreage, which is huge.
Yeah.
So that's why it's kind of really different to see us have to go through this process on such a large property where the impact is negligible, right? But again, we are always, and Brian, how long have you been here now?
35 years.
35 years in this commission. Like we always see weird stuff come out of the woodwork where some agency will say, you can't do this because, right? And it's nice to clear all that off. So what are your plans? Like, what are you planning on building, and your timeline, so that gives us, do we have time, like, to our next meeting to be able to get all this and then make a recommendation, or the ABC? So what are you planning on?
I've been living in a travel trailer for 2 years.
Yeah.
I finally got enough money for a down payment.
Okay.
So I could afford that. So I applied I wanted to do it in August. I actually talked to Eagle Homes in August, and I realized how much effort this is. And
So there's some hoops we gotta jump
yeah,
through.
we'll get through this.
Yeah, still not done. So they're more.
So no, just this, well, we have Eagle Homes right now waiting with the house is sitting there on the prep waiting. And as soon as this is settled, then we're gonna wait until the spring. Obviously, we can't do anything until spring. There's gonna be weight restrictions on the road out there, all of that. So we're aware of that. So we're thinking May, June, maybe. We might be ready to put the house on the property, yeah.
So it wouldn't create a burden if the APHC decided like to kind of defer just a recommendation on this for until our next meeting. Because would that create a burden or not?
I think it seemed that Stephanie was aiming
Yeah.
for the April meeting.
Yeah, she was aiming for the April meeting.
That's
Yeah.
correct.
So that then we would have that decision, we could move forward in May, we could start digging foundations, putting footings in the ground. We need to put in 20 footings to support the house, and then the house sits on the footings alone, so there won't be a foundation, there won't be a basement there. It'll just be pylons that are put in and 20 footings for the house.
And just process wise, so that everybody that's here understands how the APHC process works. The APHC is strictly an advisory committee.
Mhm.
So what the APHC does is that they review this. The APHC invites applicants who have to go through this process to a meeting so that questions could be asked, the report could be considered, staff could advise on technical issues. And then what happens is that the APHC makes recommendations such as do not support. The APHC doesn't decide the application. They only make a recommendation to the Rural Affairs Committee.
Hmm.
The Rural Affairs Committee consists of all the electoral area directors. And then the Rural Affairs Committee reviews the application, looks at everything, and makes a recommendation to the board, typically for the next day, to support or not support something. And it's usually the area director that will make some type of motion to the board. So here, the APHC could decide to support. And then basically a report is prepared. We heard staff say that the staff person working on this, Stephanie Johnson, she believes that this whole application and the staff report could be brought and addressed at the April RAC meeting, which would be on April. RAC is April 17th.
Mhm.
So, and then it would go to the board for final approval or disposition, not approval, but final disposition on the 18th.
Yep.
So that's the way the process works, just if you don't understand how APHCs work. And the APHC is actually here. The APHC has gone through, I don't know how many referrals and since it started. But we're here, the APHC is here to help the process and look at any potential roadblocks or anything that might be there to say, okay, maybe if you tweak the application this way, the staff helps us with this, that would make it work. So right now, because nobody's seen anything like this before, nobody at this table anyway.
Yeah.
And staff probably haven't seen one of these in the whole RDCK yet, right?
Just in the Creston Valley.
In the Creston Valley, there you go. So how were they disposed of in the Creston Valley?
In the Creston Valley, again, it's a bit different. They have nice rectangular lots where sucking that frontage up to the front works a little better. There's been some issues where, again, there's already been a building there, so the footprint has been moved around to kind of suck into that building. We haven't had a scenario yet where we've had two different sites, but again, we haven't had a lot like this before. I've been able to go into our drive and just look for the referral responses. And so as part of the application, the planner, who Stephanie will refer to, external agencies, internal staff, such as the building department, by law enforcement, water for in a water area, as well as the nearby public. And so we have responses of no concerns from the Ministry of Transportation, from the utility companies. we have a response from the Ministry of Agriculture that has some comments. And in a nutshell, they support the siting, changes to the siting, but they don't support the increase of the floor area. And the archaeology branch has also responded with no concerns, and I'm not seeing any public responses as of yet.
Okay, so
In the folder.
can you read that response from the Agricultural Land Commission again,
Sure.
please?
It can be the biggest problem.
It's, again, this isn't in the Agricultural Land Commission, so this isn't the ALC's response. This is the Ministry of Agriculture.
The Ministry of Agriculture, okay.
That's
so
correct.
yeah,
So this
that's correct.
isn't in their jurisdiction, that they're providing their comments as an expert. And so it's a bit of a novel, so bear with me.
Yeah, just summarize what you just said.
So hang on one second, before she reads this, is there any relevance to this?
Yeah, because we are here to look at, the APHC is here to look at everything before it makes a recommendation.
Right, but if the agricultural land, if the Ministry of Agriculture has no say in this, then.
They have a say as, sorry, they have a say as a referral agency. They don't have a
Fair
say as like, and the board can take that into consideration
Right.
instead of if you were in the agricultural land reserve portion, then you would actually be abiding by their regulations
Right.
as well as ours. So
Okay.
you don't have that extra layer of regulations. They're just simply providing their comments for the board to consider.
Okay, fair enough.
And so, they understand and support the applicant's rationale for requesting a variance to both the maximum depth and size of the farm residential footprint. However, ministry staff note that no agricultural rationale has been supplied to justify an increase to the maximum gross floor area of the proposed residence. Further, the applicant has not indicated that agriculture production on the subject property will increase beyond the very limited farming activity that is currently occurring. Ultimately, ministry staff support the proposed location of the new residence, but not the increase to the maximum gross floor area.
Fair enough.
And again, that's their comments.
So then at this point, do the APHC members have any questions?
No, I don't know what do you mean.
So
I
here,
don't see the problem.
I just have one comment.
Yep.
It's pretty hard to be farming when you can't live on the land.
Yeah.
So he's the second generation to take over for his dad. My sister and I have been farming actively for probably 30 years. So we know what we're talking about. Ryan has talked to my sister and I. Has interest in farming in the future, but it's pretty hard to farm if you can't live on the land.
yeah, and this isn't a subdivision, this is just a secondary residence.
Yeah.
So we understand all of those pieces, like that stuff we are comfortable with because we've seen it many times. This is a little different, so pardon the additional questions. So at this point, go ahead, Kelly.
I just want to, it just went online to just take a look at what 90 square meters is. And that's 969 square feet. That's it.
Who here lives in 900 suites?
I live in 880, but I'm by myself. There's no 3 bedrooms.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's not the point. To go up to 136 square meters, it's only 1,464,
Which is average.
which is an average size home. And that's not including a whole lot of extra spaces, outbuildings and stuff like that. So.
Yeah.
I don't know where the ALR or the agricultural people are coming from. I think that's a reason for that, in my opinion.
Basically, I think
Did
that's
you
why.
make comments?
Yeah, they may comment, now you understand why we look at those comments. And then the APHC determines, and then they recommend to the Rural Affairs Committee. And then the Rural Affairs Committee, through a director like myself, will look at everything. The RAC members will discuss it, staff will provide a report with all of this information in it. And basically, they will then include the APHC's recommendation to support, or not support, or refer it to public hearing, which is another option.
Only for rezoning, not
Only for, not for this?
No.
So it's just support or not support?
That's correct.
Okay, so now one of you should make a motion to support or not support, and then you can discuss it.
Well, I'm prepared to make a motion
Go ahead.
to support this application. I don't find it unreasonable.
Anyone opposed?
All right, I'll second that,
Seconded by Andy.
because there's no reason of us opposing, land, piece of land that big with a little home in the middle or wherever, that's,
I could understand concerns where you're taking, you know, a 5 acre lot and you're slamming a 2,000 square foot home right in the middle and then really adjusting how a farm can operate.
Mhm.
You know, by the time you put in a 60 foot wide road and all this other stuff, I don't think this is quite the same as in Langley or in Abbotsford. I believe a lot of those rulings refer to those kind of properties. So anyway, that's my 2 cents.
but that's the rural area there, and Pat's Creek is open for.
We're just a bunch of hillbillies.
But it's just.
You be careful.
So you have a motion, you have a seconded, and then
And
vote.
Vote.
Yep.
Favor?
All in favor? There you go.
Carried.
So that's the recommendation. Staff's gonna put it in the minutes. It'll be included in the staff report. And then it'll come to the Rural Affairs Committee on April 17th. And then, after, all the Rural Affair Committee, after staff presents, and the Rural Affair Committee members, the 11 of us will consider the application. Then the chair will ask me if I want to make a motion. And then I will make a motion after hearing all of the debate, if any. And I don't predetermine my motions ever in advance because you learn stuff at every meeting. But I think you have the APHC's support, so that is important. Because where an APHC says do not support, even if staff says support, that is listened to very carefully by the Rural Affairs Committee members and by the board. And we have those situations.
Fair.
Okay, so hopefully, does that help make it clear for everybody here what we're doing?
Yeah.
And what we do, what the
Yeah.
APHC does with the support of staff and the director?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Is, if I could ask a question, that meeting in April, is there a public meeting or is it?
Public meeting,
Yeah.
public meeting, online and
Where is it, Andy? Where is it held? Oh,
so at the
At
RDCP
the,
board.
on the Lakeside office in Nelson.
But you
or
can access it virtually.
But,
don't have to-
you can go virtually if you'd like.
And you, and
Get
there's.
pushed to go virtually.
You
Is it
can come.
okay if I just show up?
We like it when you come, yeah.
And Dana, we also need to advise that, that you could come, like if you're the agent, anyone could attend the meeting, but the agent, in this case, or the property owner, could request to be a delegation to RAC. And if this was really, probably a good idea to be there in case there are any questions, right?
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah, some
easier.
applicants choose to make a presentation and some just choose to say, I'm here if you have questions, I'll answer.
Yeah.
And Steph can walk you through all that.
Stuff kind of gives you a hint saying there might be, it might be a good idea to come as a delegation and present and
Yeah.
answer questions, and you're given 15 minutes.
Okay.
Delegations are given 15 minutes to make a presentation and for the Rural Affairs Committee members to ask you questions.
Okay.
And then staff, then a motion's made and questions to staff are made, are made by the commission members.
So, you guys have been sitting at this table for longer than I have, and your recommendation, would it be to do a presentation of this application at that meeting, or
Strictly up to you.
I'm asking your opinion? What would you,
I've seen people come and do presentations and hurt themselves
Yeah.
more than helping themselves. Because if there's nobody objecting and there might be a
Yeah.
question to staff about what the Ministry of
Right.
Agriculture says, but again, staff could address that.
okay, fair enough.
So, but I never say don't come because you could be,
Okay.
there to answer questions.
Yeah, I
It's
don't want to cut my own throat.
No,
Even
it's good to come. Even if you don't want to make a presentation, it's good to come because then if questions come up, you can nip them in the bud and answer.
That's what I think.
And then also your face is there. There's a person instead of just a piece of paper, right?
And so
And don't bring happy pants to that meeting.
Art and I go way back. That's a perfect nickname, eh? Art? Okay, I never heard that. He comes across as a gruff, tough guy and, he's got, you know, he's got a heart of gold. So
I didn't
the,
realize, I'm sorry.
oh, sorry, it's okay.
Again, I'm almost 60 years old and I should be abreast of the metric system, but when I put it into square feet.
Put it in square feet.
The light.
Gave you perspective.
I know, I tried to put it into square feet in the application and it's only available in meters.
If you are gonna be talking to it, you may be talking to my
Yeah, really.
age demographic, use.
The rural affairs members are older than Kelly.
Yeah, I get it. Yes, absolutely.
I can make a note for the staff
That would be
report
great.
too, to put both. in.
Yes, that would be amazing.
Sounds good.
Thank you for that.
Okay, so did you find this process helpful?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
And do you
I,
now understand what APHCs do?
Okay.
And I really think, because, these three
Goodness.
members, who have served here combined way over 100 years. Helping out in application.
they just thought about it. They're like,
We made Art smile. I thought.
Well, I've been here, I've been here.
Yeah, Brian's been here. a long time. Say collectively, not individually.
I'd like to say thank you guys for coming out.
Yeah.
Yeah, really.
It's a lot easier for me to understand what's.
Yeah. Oh, good. No, I appreciate you guys' time.
I was concerned you'd be throwing rocks at my house. Yes.
And,
Oh, that's good. Hey, that's really good. Art says, I guess, that's not.
We,
Oh my God. Sorry.
That's as good as, that's as good as it gets.
I like the other one. That was good. That was enough, Art. Okay, so thank you very much.
No.
I mean,
we have two more items on the agenda. You're welcome to
Welcome to
stay,
stay.
but you're welcome to go a few other places you'd like to be tonight.
You want to slide.
No, I'm actually gonna stay.
Okay.
you guys can hang, no problem. Okay. Brian, what's next?
Just go back to this. Would it be Verrigan's? Do we want,
Yeah, that's next.
okay. Draft statement of significance of the Verrigan Memorial Park.
So maybe I could just introduce that
Yeah.
one. Is that
I'm
okay?
not really up top, I'm on top of that.
Sure. So the regional district has a community heritage register, which is a list of important and significant places with heritage value throughout the regional district.
We're gonna do that next week.
And so we received a nomination to include Berrigan Memorial Park on that list, which the APHC recommended as well. And so the next step was to draft a statement of significance, which is a universal across Canada way of capturing the importance of a place and the values associated with it. And the reason why it's important to follow that standardized method is because once something goes on our heritage register, it then goes to the province's register and the federal register. So there's a consistent way across Canada to capture the values across all these places. And so with the help of a heritage consultant who also helped set up our community heritage register, we have a draft statement of significance. And I wanted to bring it to the group and get your feedback on it. And then once we're happy with it, we're ready to move. A staff report will come back to the Rural Affairs Committee and the board to place this site on our community heritage register.
Yeah.
And so you have the draft, and the point tonight is to just get your feedback and thoughts on it. If there's any edits you think we should make, I'm happy to bring it back to our consultant, Alana.
So Chair, I do have, just on a process piece again. I cannot remember when this was referred to us. It was
I was on parental leave, so it must have been a while
a
ago.
year ago at least.
Yeah.
The process took forever, and I understand that there's, staff. We did submit, I did submit a statement of significance to staff, all ready to go. And based on, historians, accounts and everything else. What happened is that staff recommended that a consultant be retained to review that statement. And this is the first time we're seeing the consultant's statement. Now, the question that I have is that, has the USC been consulted, because they operate that park? Have they seen this? Has this been referred to the USC Executive Committee for vetting?
No, it's been referred back to the APHC as a first step.
And so probably the most respectful thing for the APHC to do is to refer this statement of significance to the USC Executive Committee for vetting and feedback, to the APHC before we recommend this, or before they recommend it.
Now, that makes sense.
Yeah,
They are the proponents, so.
they're the operators.
Yeah.
And it came from them as well. So does that make sense? Does that-
Sure, yeah.
Okay,
That,
so
that just means this will be brought back to a future meeting once I
it's not
have
gonna
their.
matter anymore. It's not, American Memorial Park's not going anywhere. So.
It is good to get these sites on our register. It not only just signifies that we all think this place is important, it also opens up lots of opportunities like grants. Your Heritage BC grants get opened up if you're on the Community Heritage Register. As well as if any renovations or anything ever needed to be done, there's also special provisions under the BC Building Code that get opened up if you're on the Community Heritage Register. And the other nice side is there's no downside, there's no compensation involved, you can still make changes to the site or to the buildings. It's just we've taken a moment to capture what's really important to that site. And so if there was ever some changes, we can say, hey, did you think about this? This is something that's really significant to the site. And hopefully, I think the best part so far in the regional districts is just really open the door to some grant funding for these important spots. So, yeah, I'm happy to do that, and I'll let you know.
APHC members prepared to make
Make a motion.
referral motion to the USC Executive Committee to report back to the APHC at our next meeting.
I can make a motion. That we refer this back to
Dana, did you get the
second. Yes, so.
Got it?
And second.
Already said.
Kelly second.
Call for the vote?
Open the vote.
You know, like,
Gary.
Jason.
And the APHC company that had
So because it's a heritage site, but the operator uses it.
That's correct, yeah. Yeah, they basically operate businesses. Yeah.
Okay, so basically as a.
Okay, so Brian, now
Is it,
the big job here.
like all the expenses, like.
Mhm.
There's gonna be, so
Dana-
that still has to be done by USC. So I'm trying to get a copy.
Yeah, of course.
Can you reach over, sir?
Yeah, so everyone has. So
I
this
didn't bring enough for everyone, but I know some members of the APC got a copy in advance.
Need which one?
There have been no updates since last Friday, is there? Yeah, Kelly picked it up.
So Dan, is it okay if or chair, if I say something right now?
Yep, go right ahead.
So this is the first time,
If I said no.
Pardon?
Yes, go ahead, and then maybe I'll say.
Yeah, I'll just, you know, we have, public here. This is the first time that the APHC is seeing a draft of the official community plan for Area I today. It was circulated before the meeting, but this is the first chance we get to talk about it at all. And this process started in 2016. Very long haul,
Holy man.
yeah.
Well, we did have a pandemic and some staff changes in between, so there was.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say,
Circumstances.
but still,
Went through all of that.
that's a really long time for us to have been working on a official community plan
Continuous event.
review process. So today, Dana will speak to what we have, but there are a lot of questions that I know I have. And I have them on almost every page, like multiple questions on some pages. You can see my stuff is all,
Oh, that's good.
so, pardon?
We
Well, it's not redacted, it's just question after question. So this process, we're gonna start it today. But I got a funny feeling we're gonna be having another meeting on this as well. And I asked for the big mapping to be printed, which I picked up at the regional district office on Thursday. Thank you, Dan, for that. And
That we're sitting on something.
well, I'm not worried about the sentiment.
No.
yet. No, what we'll do is, this is where looking at that and looking at a screen, trying to understand the mapping is also difficult. So here,
My arm.
Making room for you?
no, well, yeah, I think what we'll do is when we're ready for the mapping, we'll clear a space here. They're having,
Like, how about, can we pin on the court here?
oh, I could do that, yeah, let's do that.
John.
Right there, we can pin, when we're ready for each.
Okay.
We'll just put them up one at a time,
Thank you.
because this was really interesting looking at this for me.
Yep.
Because I've never seen it. We saw some preliminary mapping, but not all of these that map, and the mapping really brings it home, right?
So, like, what kind of comments were you seeing if you marked up every page?
I have many questions.
Like, good comments, not so good, like, just every question.
Questions, and you would not expect anything less.
Yeah, and so that's probably part of the process itself, right? Because it's been meeting and gathering this and that, and now wow, it's here, and it's like, holy shit, like, okay.
So basically, that's exactly it, is that when we actually see the final, a draft completed, and which we're seeing for the first time, we've seen partial draft, penultimate draft,
Right.
not this final draft of document. And then we see the mapping that goes with it. Then what happens is that then we can really jump in and say, yeah, what about this? Why is this way? And then, like I said, the mapping brings it all, ties it all together. And again, for the public that's here, I was intimately involved in the 1995. All of us were. Kelly, maybe not. Kelly, were you part of 1995? But Brian was, and Andy was, and we had three other members of the ABC. Also were on in the 1995 process. And we were, spent a lot of time and got to this point, and it's kind of the start of the start of the polishing. And then, of course, Dan will explain, it goes out to the public and stuff like that, after the APHC says that it's ready to go to the public, right? And the director, of course, has some feedback on that, like, we're not taking the product out to the public that we have questions about. Unanswered questions.
Right.
So that's kind of where we're at today. So, with the time we have, what time is it right now?
We have an hour.
We have an hour. So we'll start the process today and get as far as we can in that hour to respect everyone's time, staff time. And then if we have to come back, we'll come back. Is that a fair description of what we're doing?
Yep, I just want to say, because we have our advisory planning commission and we have our great guests here, and the intent here is we have community members. We've almost kind of have one representatives from one per community to kind of give us advice and feedback as we draft this. But the OCP is an intense public process. And so, like Director Davidoff said, this is the first step. It will go to the public. The next step will be a 1-month referral to the public, where again, any comments that are collected will go back into changes into the draft. It's just, again, we have this advisory committee to give us advice and feedback on the draft before we send it out to the public. So it's not that it won't go to the public. It's not, if you are a public attending the meeting, it's not that this is your chance, your one chance. It's just going to the APC for their first polish of it, or first, maybe they hate it, I don't know, we'll see, but first blush at it, and then once they're satisfied, then it'll go forward to the public, and that review process will go over again. And it'll also get referred to, similar to your application, it'll get referred to external agencies. So again, Ministry of Agriculture, Ministry of Transportation, Ministry of Lands, Ministry of Highways, all those groups. So the public, as well as kind of all those, Interior Health Authority, those groups as well will all have a chance, First Nations, to give their comments as well. And so again, we can work those into a draft. And so hopefully by the time we're ready to bring it to the decision makers, we have something that's been vetted through the community and through everyone, and something that, a product that people feel really represents their community and the future that they want.
So I said what I said for a reason, because what we have is that we have a draft. You saw my notes. And the key thing is that APHC members also have a lot of questions. Three people that introduced themselves as guests have been intimately involved in the whole process, and they were selected because they represent their communities. So Lisa represents Brilliant, and Eileen represents Terry's Drums, and Marcy's Pass Creek, and Kelly's from Acres, and Andy's from Glade, and Brian's from Pass Creek as well. And I'm from Terry's Drums, but looking at the whole picture. So basically what we had, we intentionally went to a working group to say, okay, we need the perspective from all of these communities to work through this whole process. And that's what they're here. They're guests, but they are more than guests. They're part of the working group that's needed as well. So that's why I'm just saying all this, because this should not be taken out and to the public to say, this is the plan, right? This isn't the plan. This is a draft plan. And we're not near the end yet.
We're just at the beginning.
We're at the
You're at the beginning of a new
beginning of
section.
the final phase of the approval process and public input. Is that fair, Deanna?
Yes.
Was I fair to staff and fair to the process?
Yep.
Yeah, and she did say we may hate it because we've seen stuff come back where we said,
Deanna's work, that's pretty.
Deanna's work is good. So, but even then, Director David,
So
but Deanna,
Reviewing the
Deanna
work.
knows not to expect anything less than that, correct? Because then he hasn't done his homework, right?
yeah, I always
We don't
think
want
for a couple hours for Director David.
And then I said,
Flowers.
Dad, I'd like to have some mapping. What kind of mapping? It's a big map. See everything, one glance. You don't have to sit there on a screen. And so they made them up for me. So I went and picked them up on Thursday and spent a lot of time on them. It's,
Did anyone try to look at them digitally?
Yeah.
With the share file I sent, did that work okay?
everyone's quiet.
I did not.
No, okay.
Oh, I look digitally,
Yeah,
yes.
were you able to zoom in enough and keep
Oh,
it?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
But I have mental notes, like. I thought everything was pretty.
Well, I did the
like
digital
these.
as well. Spent a lot of time on it going through, but what I ended up doing was I ended up printing sections of it and blowing it up and then like going back and forth, and I says, no, I just need one of these. Because, you know, big map and you could see everything, and I know that the APC members prefer the mapping to the digital. So,
So
their eyes are good.
through the chair, this is what I propose, is we can go through it in order, section by section. Each section, I can just introduce it and its intent, and then we can we can start go through it together, and you can provide me your comments as we go. And then we can, if we reach a natural stopping point, or if we get to 8:30, then we can plan what we want to do next. Would that process work for you? Okay. So section 1 is,
Start with this.
here. Did I spell it wrong?
This is intentional.
Did I spell it wrong?
No.
Okay.
No. It's,
You scared?
it's basically people have, when people look at an area and it has a letter. So area I, area B, area C, area D, like people don't even know what you're, what are you talking, I gotta explain it non-stop. Okay, so what's area I? Area I includes Brennan, Bass Creek, just about up to the new settlement, but not the new settlement, just right, almost pretty close to the new settlement. And then it includes Crumbs, Carries, Glade Central, and Glade across the river. Glade Central's on this side. People go, what the heck, Glade Central? And then it includes Shore Acres, and Shore Acres is upper Shore Acres and lower Shore Acres. And then you've got Wyken subdivision, which is not part of Shore Acres. And then you have Claymore Junction West, which is, Webb Road is the divider, and it's only Webb Road is cut right in half. Area H is one side, so basically, that's area I. So what we did is we said, and we started our work in 2016, we said, do we give our area a name? And then we looked at, and it's too bad we don't have well, the mapping has. Do it right now. There we go, start with the mapping right away.
Show us a very large picture of Sentinel Mountain.
Yeah, he's going to.
Let's move those in. And slate it here.
Yeah.
Find the right one.
Your dad wants to stick around.
Maybe.
You're welcome to, but you don't have to if you don't want to. It's totally up to you.
Still explode,
Yeah,
huh?
I kind of find this interesting. No, that's why I was asking. I kind of find this interesting because I didn't know that you guys were trying to community plan for, is it just for?
I just wanted to deal with the name first. So basically, I refer to area I as 90% Sentinel Mountain, which it is. And this is area I. These are the boundaries right here. So here's we're right here. So there's the boundary, goes up Kootenai River. In the middle of the Kootenai River, there's area J. And then it goes up through Crumbs, Carries, but on this side of the river is electoral area E. So the Glade watershed, Sidewalk Mountain, are all in area E. They're not in area I. And so you can see the boundary here of area I, and then it goes up to Shore Acres. That's across, goes along this point, yeah. And part of this is an area H.
We're here.
The land here is actually an area H. And this area H hops across Locan to the other side. And then it goes here, there's Webb Road, and then it goes here. And this is, there's Castola,
That's J.
and that's area H. And then it goes across here. And everything on this side of it is area J. Okay, so when you see, I call it that there's a skirt lace around the skirt. So the mountain is this big feature. And then along the bottom of the mountain, like people don't realize how narrow this property is. And when you see the wildfire mapping, hazard mapping, and other hazard mapping we will be presenting, What happens is that you can understand that the mountain, this mountain control impacts everything in Area I. So that's why we chose Sentinel Mountain as the name for Area I. So is there any feedback on the name? Name. The public.
I want to J's, what's that?
Some of which?
I want to get some of that land that area J to and put it on Sentinel Mountain.
We're not gonna be talking about that, but the bottom line is that we just really need, and what's really interesting is that the land we were talking about, like Spurlings and these are the lands up in Pass Creek. You think the bottom land and the really good agricultural land and all the farming land is here along the Kootenai River. It's not. It's Pass Creek.
Why is he letting this out?
No, but you can see. And what's really freaky is, you guys remember when the road washed out in Upper Pass Creek, when Goose Creek overflowed, and it washed out Pass Creek Road. And I go, what the heck? And talking to staff, they go, yeah, there's a floodplain up there. I said, what do you mean there's a floodplain? There's a floodplain up in Upper Pass Creek, right on the top. And you know how here we're talking about marshy land and swamp, exactly what we're looking at on your properties. Well, up here, it's flat. Look at this. There's your marshes. So bottom line is, this is what I mean by, you can read it in a piece of paper, or you can look at it, and the visual impact is so graphic and visceral. Like this is where the big parcels of land are, not over here. And yet people tend to think this is where everything happened in an area from an agricultural perspective and things like that, ranching. So there you go. There's our first map. And it's a really good visual. And this map, maybe let's do that. Dana. Can we just look at the maps today? And then come back and go through what's written?
is that pink?
I mean, if that's what you had to say about page 1. Yeah, we're gonna have to come back.
Yeah, and then basically what we'll do is when we come back.
What does that say, rural residential?
We can then understand, like this, it'll tie it together instead of doing these. So this here map, and Dana, what was not on here was the
How
legend.
come everyone's the smaller ones, the legend come up there?
The legend wasn't there.
There's a legend there, it
You
just,
gotta walk through the
It's on the next page, but
Come up here and.
it's on the next page.
And then describe
Is that
what's.
the same
purpose.
Yeah. The legend just
Oh,
didn't.
yeah, that's the piece that I.
I'm gonna open the.
It's on Eileen's.
Oh, yeah, that's the legend, but it's on yours.
These are all goddamn-
But it didn't print
It's
on.
not on the small ones either.
Some of the small ones have it and some don't.
Yeah,
This one came
the one I have.
Friday, picked this up from the office.
Colors
The
here.
way it printed, not done.
Oh,
That's
anything to mix that with, Lisa?
Okay, so Dana, can you please come up here?
He's got a registered farm.
Here's the legend, I got the legend here.
This is how about the.
I'm sorry, folks, I don't know why some printed with the legend and some don't.
Because other than.
When you look at it on visually, it has the legend.
Is that your property? The very famous.
Is that his property? Shepherd Drive, right there.
So that's Quentin's property, right?
During the existing.
Okay, please, if we can have your attention, guys. Marcy, please.
Mixed use.
Speak your voice.
So this map is simply capturing the existing land use in Area I. And so, in every individual plan, there's musts under the local government act that you have to include in the plan. This is one of them, and so this map, the data from it is taken from BC assessments in the land code that you get on your BC assessment. Now there's like 60 different codes you can have. So what we did is lump them together into different categories. So you have agriculture, it goes green. Commercial is red. Community services is blue. Industrial is purple.
So let's give an example. So with the green, it's agriculture. Does that mean that's the only land in the ALR, or what does that mean?
No, this means
What is,
that BC assessment.
how it's being
is
taxed?
Taxing this as agriculture.
There you go. So you have to qualify. And what's really amazing is that when you look at along the Slocan, along the Kootenai River, that used to be market garden, Thrums, Terry's. And you look now at how many active farms there are, and you're talking about farming, and that's qualifying, earning enough income to qualify for taxation as a farm. And you look at Cass Creek and you look at Terry's, Thrums, there are very few parcels that qualify for assessment as agricultural properties. That means we are not farming in Area I. We have hobby farms, but we are not being taxed. We're not earning enough income on those properties to be taxed.
Yeah.
As farm property.
And Quentin has a
Oh,
comment.
yes, go.
What, so like, for my instance, my sister's and my property is classified as other
That big
on
pink
the
square.
legend, that big pink square there, just.
Yep.
That one, yeah, so what does that mean?
That means you're getting taxed. Tax rate, you should not be taxed. If you're farming and you have the farm revenue, because farm assessment as farm property is the lowest assessment you could have. There's nothing lower. And if you look at here in Thrums, one of the, here, that is that property, just gotta make sure I got it right, yeah. So that property is, when you drive through Thrums and you see this really beautiful property right on the river, properties beside it are rural residential and they're $1 million properties. This property here generates revenue
Which one are you pointing at, Andy?
right here, the green.
The green?
This is
Okay.
the Peter Popper property.
He's got farm status and
Farm status, and it's assessed.
Yeah.
They hay it and have been forever. So it maintains its assessed value, the tax assessments
Piece
as
of paper.
agricultural land,
Mhm.
right? An interesting one, you guys remember William Bennett?
Yeah.
Bill Bennett? Well, they had a property on the lake and the whole property, Art remembers this, the whole property was assessed as agricultural and it's multi-million dollars. But the taxation of it was the lowest you could possibly have. So you could have a multi-million dollar property, but it's not assessed as residential, it's assessed as farm property. And that's the way you save money on your taxes, but you need to generate the revenue to qualify.
Right.
Sorry.
Going back to.
Or,
Other.
yeah. And
So other is not a good category for assessment.
I can look at the specific property for sure. Again, this data is coming straight from BC assessment. Orange is residential. I think the big takeaway here is we're seeing residential land use here. Yellow is vacant, and then if there's nothing, that means it's an untitled. It's a personal sense.
Yes. That's.
What's the purple again?
And that's.
Dark purple is utility, and light purple is just in the office.
So the dark purple is, I want to make it right. The dark purple is all the land that's owned by Vernon Power Corporation.
yeah,
Okay,
high water mark.
and that's all their property. All that purple is Vernon Power Corporation.
Power line out of Glade.
And then you've got the power, there's a Tex owns, I think, that kind of stick shaped property. And then at the confluence of the Kootenai River and Shore Acres, Tech owns 60 acres of land. right at the confluence that they have conservation covenants on. And basically, it is conservation, it's zone, it's designated utility. Oh, sorry, that's Fortis, the gas line property, the purple one. Tex is right across, and it has a different designation. They got conservation covenants on it, they use it for carbon credit offsets. And basically, they will not allow it to be used for anything else. They kept that sign, you can't even walk on it. So this is what I mean by, I think you guys see I like mapping. But it tells a story, right? In a glance.
This is the least interesting one.
Oh, God, the other ones are heavy duty. No, but are there any questions on this map before we move on? The
Well, I
next
just
map.
think for Quentin, is there some guidance? Like, should he make
Oh,
a
yeah.
call or
Get a hold of the assessment
is he gonna
authority.
make things worse?
It's, we are assessed as farm. We pay farm tax.
Well, it's not showing up.
Well, that's why I'm wondering,
Oh,
so is your map wrong?
could be.
That's what.
Hey,
that's
guess
what-
what? We're here to look at the mapping too.
Because on our farm assessment, it's assessed as farm.
That's fine.
And you know, interesting, I shared with you guys at a meeting last year, my property was assessed as farm last year and everybody says, shut up, don't say anything. And then this year, yeah, I'm back up there, right? But for whatever reason, I was assessed as farm last year. I know the property next to me is farm, like Aaron's place.
Yeah.
But, so it was just interesting. So I paid less tax last year, so but back up there this year.
You're not taking that map home with you.
I've assessed it over 6 times in the last.
Note to self.
Okay, so there's the thing right there, because the other tax category is brutal when it comes to paying taxes.
Mhm.
Cause it's a catch-all category.
Doesn't surprise me it's your property, mister, for some reason.
A big bullseye right there. That's what it is.
But your assessment notice says that
It's farm. It's been farm
It's
for
farm.
years.
that's it. So there's something that we have to check. So that's what I mean by map. Next map? Ooh, okay.
I'm gonna save.
Okay.
Even there's more data in there.
Yeah, that's, I got it. Yeah.
Quentin, you sure that's your?
Then I went like this far better.
Silly question.
Okay, so this next one. Here, just hold that. I'll just hold that.
He's already gone, I've got red eye for some reason, so it's like we had a word with somebody else, but I need a card, so we hit it when we do that.
You,
Oh, no, we don't argue it.
I know you don't argue, it's powerful.
Exactly, I know to keep.
So this one only has, that, this one only has one feature on it, or a couple of features.
Another thing that you have to show when you push a community plan is your aggregate reimbursement.
Gravel pit.
Here's all the gravel pits, sorted by their tenure. So if they're crown tenure, they're pink. If they're private, they're green. Again, the data comes from weekly assessment, and then gray is crown land. So this is also crown land, but you don't see the gray patch here because there's no title that goes from.
Okay, and so what we have is we have, the Claymore pit is, here, okay? This is H, so this is by the Cristova pit, and this here is what? That is gravel pit,
Yep, that's another.
and that one is up,
But that's an area.
it's area H.
Is that the one up top bench, Christova? Like,
So here,
Yeah.
there's Piljack Road, and everybody phones me and says, there's a gravel pit there. Well, there isn't a gravel pit there because there's no mine act permit to mine gravel on that property. So basically, you have to have a mine act permit to have a gravel pit operation.
Where's that one?
On Bill Jack Road, there's no gravel pit. The other gravel pit that doesn't show up
It's a go, just tell me.
is on,
Yeah.
on,
Yeah, you said it.
that's a road. Horizon's gravel pit doesn't show up. Jimmy Postnikov's pit. It doesn't show up as a pit. It's right here.
The big piece there.
This one?
Yep.
Nope.
Nope.
No,
This big,
That's
100-acre property. So that doesn't show up as a gravel pit, and they have a mine act permit. And part of it's in the ALR and part of it's not in the ALR. And we've had issues over the years. Eileen lives right beside it. So that is not on the mapping.
Neither is neither is the agricultural piece.
No, this is just.
I know, but on the first one? On the first one?
The agricultural doesn't show up on that.
Well, I can't see it.
What's the land?
Yeah, because part of the gravel pit, half of his gravel pit is on the agricultural, and he's encroaching onto that part.
Okay,
But I think on the first one that you're talking about taxation, not
But
designation,
existing land use, that's what I'm,
existing land use is based on the assessment,
based on the assessment, not on
Not on-
use or on
Okay.
designation.
based on assessment.
oh, I see, okay,
Yeah,
so,
Based
okay.
on assessment. So here, then we got some pits that aren't showing up. And here in Brilliant, we have it on Terrace Road, but I don't know if we should. We have a pit here, but there's industrial property there where Markins sells. That's zone industrial. It's not commercial, it's an industrial zone. So the bottom line is that this has to be corrected. So this is like, now you know what I've been doing. I've been playing with the maps and looking and saying, why is it showing up on the mapping? What's up?
We're just missing this one that has a mine.
We're missing that one. And basically on Pilchuck Road, I get calls about a gravel pit operation, but it's not a gravel pit operation because there's nothing permitted there. They actually applied for they came here to our APC in the late 90s. And they had applied for a gravel pit operation.
Well, a zoning variance.
A zoning,
I remember that.
yeah.
That's way off the end of the.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so any more on this one? Everybody clear?
What? The gravel pit on top of this?
They want to do the easier. Do that one? Okay,
So next is. Community halls, recreation centers, trails, cemeteries, trying to capture all the things that people gather informally and informally. And so, and then you also see call out boxes. So this box is zoomed in here for Short Acres, zoomed in here for Fast Creeks. You can see it a little bit. Okay.
so we have GIS mapping on where every single, for example, where there's a horseshoe pit that's used by the community, it's mapped. All of these things show up, and this is part of the recreational piece. And just all the where community connections are, where people meet to do activities. They're all mapped.
Just to tie it back to our earlier item of the Heritage Register, we have the places that matter as well. So there's Confluence, there's Raspberry School.
Place over here. That's a whole flat down there.
Okay, any questions on this? But this is the stuff that will be available to everyone.
So these maps that we're showing you are building the context to the plan. So the last map we'll show you is the plan, and these are more showing the data that helped us make the decision, that helped inform decision making for why the future land use looks the way it does.
Any more questions on this? I'll grab that. Okay, now we get into some really interesting stuff. This one is scary. So this map here is that first time ever that we've seen this. We were forced or downloaded. We had to do hazard mapping of our whole area, every single hazard. So that could be a slope hazard, it could be a flooding hazard, it could be combination of both. And here you see along in Pass Creek, all the places where you have particularly flood hazards. And you can see the potential for flooding, and then we have slope issues, and we're here where we have over 40% slope, 40% slope to the person who doesn't understand slope, 40% slope is a monster slope, right? When you're coming down the Salmo Creston, it's 8% slope. Like, can you imagine a 40% slope? You're looking at one of the runs at Red Mountain.
It's basically a blast.
Suicide Hill and Pass Creek, Andy.
Wouldn't be 40.
Pretty close.
Yeah,
I think it's.
it's 10%, maybe 50. So that
10%.
10% great.
It's scary with 40.
Forty's half of a night.
So guess what?
You're going straight down.
Map is illustrating.
Third of 120.
Area I count. There's a hex.
Right, so guess what we have over here in Thrums? So here's Ezra Creek. And for those of you that, and along here behind the dam, below the Thrums Bluffs, this is where the highway is washed out a couple times historically. Ezra Creek washed out the highway and the railway and the rail bed. And this is the whole Ezra Creek, and you see how it's fed by so many tributaries, right? And so what happens is that that whole area is a high hazard for flooding. And here you have, this is where I live, right there, right below this little thing here, where you have slope. And when we go climbing up the mountain, you see like the slope, it carves off car-sized boulders. They don't have scree slopes, it's like literally car-sized boulders, just hundreds of them. That's the way that slope comes down. And there's some right behind our place, a rock half the size of this room, a boulder came off the mountain. So this is, again, and then there's another one here, which one, on Terry's Creek, where you have a lot of flooding issue hazard. You could see, and this I didn't understand, but before 2 acres, it used to flood in that, well, Kelly, do you remember that? Like,
Only when the ground was frozen. I think the shading is off by a little bit. It seems like a creek right up to the railroad. It's probably a little narrower than that, but that's just my.
yeah. But you could see how the map tells the story. And we never, as directors, we've never seen this before, this mapping until this process. This was all new information. Okay, and here you see now like I said, I never understood a road washout in Upper Pass Creek. And then I was told, well, it's all this floodplain. Okay, that's that one. And then another scary. Well, so
This is your favorite one, Andy.
more hazard mapping. Well, this one has to do with where we have extreme wildfires. And high moderate, low. And all the part in this color, that is extreme wildfire risk.
This data was from the City Wildlife Protection Plan.
That's the point.
And the caveat, it's technical information prepared by a forester. The caveat I would use as a planner is it's great that there's areas of high and low, but for my planning purposes, an ember from a high area can easily come into a low area, so I would take it at surface value. But it's good data to have.
What's interesting to read what extreme is.
Rather live
It's
here
this
than there.
forested lands with continuous surface fuels that will support intermittent or continuous crown fires.
Yeah, like look at all the red and all the.
Polygons may also consist of continuous surface and coniferous crown fuels. The area is often one of steep slopes, difficult terrain, usually a southerly or westerly aspect. So a lot of these are in steep slopes. And when you get the winds go through and you have a fire, then you get those crowning fires that are so impossible for anybody to put out. It just goes. And right now, like weird stuff happening in Texas, the biggest wildfire in their history, over 1 million acres burnt, right? Here we are in February. You got stuff like this.
It did snow yesterday in Texas.
It snowed yesterday, there,
Yeah.
there you go. See, that's a godsend, right?
Yeah.
That's all brush.
Yes.
So here, and
It's on Google, it can't be.
Don pulled.
And snowing in California.
all the natural environment. So this here has the winter range, like for mule deer, elk, foraging, grizzly bear. I asked conservation, like, where are the grizzly bears? I'm not a hunter, so I says, where are the grizzly bears? And they says we see them on this side. We see them on Sentinel. There's some grizzly, but the grizzly are on the other side of the Kootenai River. That's grizzly bear. Is on the other side of like Glade and that whole area. According to conservation.
We have them.
Yeah.
Unlike the
You people there.
Studies that we've done,
That's
this
it.
data is province, except for the Brilliant Head Ponds, which was a study done in 2019, looking at the shoreline habitat along Kootenai River. And so that's you can see these different colors of habitat value, high, very high, low, moderate as we come along this section here. And so that was mapping that was done by the regional district in 2019.
So along the Kootenai, I call it Brilliant Head Pond. The amount of heron nests and eagle nests and like beaver lodges, and we've seen muskrat as well. You have, not muskrat, otters, river otters. And you have like, I couldn't believe I counted the number of blue heron sites were on the, because we go boating, right? Like and then, we're doing a thing in the summer where we're just quietly patrolling with an electric motor. And the eagles are just a whole row. Every 50 meters, there's an eagle's nest. Like, it's just beautiful, beautiful country for that.
No, we have swans.
Oh, you should, yeah,
Swans are-
hundreds of swans.
The river.
Can I ask where they came from?
The swans?
Yeah,
No.
like I've lived here for years. I've never seen swans.
Lots of them there.
Well, the thing is, they used to only hang out above Lemon Creek on the Spokane River
Yeah.
for years and years, but now they've migrated into
The river got full of them.
Yeah.
And hundreds is maybe a little excessive, but
Oh,
probably.
Kelly, there are hundreds
hundreds of them.
I've only counted about 35 in my.
in one flock, yeah. But there are more flocks, like one, there's.
They're beautiful.
That's that's
Anybody ever eat?
Are we still recording this?
We won't let the secret over the face, really.
Can we do this one? Yeah, so here we have aquifer protections development area. So that's going to be reflected in the official community plan. The Shore Acres Aquifer, it held up our official community plan review process by at least year minimum, if not a year and a half. Because we had to do an aquifer study to determine what development could occur in Shore Acres, Wyken subdivision, that whole area. And then it included all of the Claymore Junction area, because it's one aquifer. It's called the Shore Acres Aquifer. Every
Aquifers don't like to follow native line.
No, and every test, every well was assessed for risk of contamination. Every well in this whole aquifer. And every well rated really high for potential, not for being contaminated, but for potential for being contaminated. And some of these wells are 30 feet deep. And they have a set, every property in Shore Acres has a well and a septic field right beside it,
On top of an aquifer.
on top of an aquifer.
So remember this map when we get to section 6, which is how we implement the plan, we'll talk about development permit areas.
So.
And that areas
Okay, so
Yeah,
now we're gonna show the other,
eventually it'll be kind of that water aquifer.
number 2,
Water's gonna be looking for gas and.
future land.
I think it was down, I'm saying. Everybody have all the, again,
Hazards.
future.
All right, so this here map, let's put it up in the middle there. These two, there. So I'm gonna let Dana do that. So this here is what the official community plan deals with on the future of land use in Area I. And given all the stuff that we've learned, all the feedback we got, all of these things, what do we put in our official community plan for future land? So Dana, she's all over. This is.
So you can see by having all the data and other informants, because we can look at, okay, where are our hazards? We don't want future growth to go there. Where is our environmentally sensitive lands or our vulnerable drinking water? And so where are agriculturally important lands? And so we can start to think where development should and shouldn't go. Where are our community access zones, our schools, our halls, places where people want to be, our transit areas where people are moving. And then we can start taking all that information in conjunction with engaging with the community and come up with our future land use. And so an OCP is a policy document, and you'll see in section 5, the future land use designations. And you can think of that as a key. So when I look at the map and I see, okay, country residential, and I see, okay, that's orange. So these zones here are meant for country residential. What does that mean? I can jump to section 5 in my plan, and it'll show the policies that kind of evaluate what that land designation will look like. So,
But before you go on, in that section 5, this is where during the surveys we did, the public meeting processes, everyone's feedback, the communities told us what they want to see, what they prefer to see. And they identified certain things and said, yeah, we don't want cookie cutter subdivisions, and we don't want more development here. Like this is where the feedback from the community helped create the policy the draft policy that we're going to be bringing back to everybody, right?
and so, yeah, so if you think back to that one, this is what we have, and this is what we propose we would like to see in the future. And so the OCP sets up the policy,
But
and
this
then
is
how we
based on
implement that.
community feedback, not our ideas. This is what the community told us
And debate.
and the data.
Like a nice harmony between the two. And so this is usually what needs the most working over. But this is the first draft of what the future land use plan would look like for area.
So what are those fingers like along those creeks?
Sure, so the light green is environmental reserve, and so this is a designation for where there's environmentally sensitive lands. What we've done is buffered all the riparian areas in crown land. If we buffered it on private land, we would lose too much development potential. So on crown land, you see all the fingers versus gray is a resource area. Green is
So here's
environmentally
the
sensitive.
gray, all the gray, BC timber sales owns all that, not, or controls it all. All the gray that you see is resource land, but that's BC Timber Sale, who controls, has the tenure for that land.
And then this lump of environmentally sensitive comes down here because the province has designated some old growth, not more that they've identified and not that it's an old growth area that's under their protection. But we've designated that as environmentally sensitive in our mapping, as well as hotels with a brilliant conflict because of all the values associated there.
That's a pine tree.
And as well as upper glade, again, because of a lot of the water and sensitivities there. And any land along the Brilliant Head Ponds, that was a utility company and not private land. We've also designated as environmental reserve.
So Dan, is there a big shift from how things are currently with our designations to what we're seeing on this map here? Like, is there a?
Because you can do a comparison by just looking right here. So you look at one map and then you look at the other map and you could see the difference.
Or maybe Marcy, are you asking, is there a difference between the 1995 OCP future land use map and this one?
No, not like, well, are we running the 95? Is that the current?
That's what we're currently.
Oh, okay, so then I guess, yes, so this.
There's the 19, there's the U, that's based.
That's today,
95 and,
and that's today.
and what we're doing today.
We have
based-
other Clinton
We,
here, right?
we have not, we have never had another official community plan. No, we did. This is the 1995 version. This is the 2024 version
Sure,
of land use in Area I.
and my question was like, well, the legend's probably different too, right? The colors used, maybe that would be helpful to use
So
the
just to clarify,
existing, yeah.
this is 2023 BC assessment, not the 19.
Oh, sorry, yes. Based on BC assessment. This one is actually based on the policy guidelines in the official community.
I'm just gonna pick on the first one, agricultural. So are we seeing changes? Are we seeing more agricultural in the future or less or the same or?
The biggest change to agricultural is the 1995 followed the agricultural land reserve. So say if a property was bisected in half in, half out, they would make, the OCP would make it half and half, which didn't make a lot of sense. And so the only change really is it still follows the pattern of the ALR lands, but we've included the full parcel instead of following the boundary of the ALR.
So where do you see the potential for increasing housing density in our future land use? Is there any place in Area I that we can densify it, or there's a desire or an appetite?
Well, Kelly, the government has passed legislation that we're bound by that will allow for, carriage houses, basic in-law suites, additional, a detached residence, but it's subject to, go ahead, your turn.
Subject to,
In terms of local,
No.
but the regional district is bound by the legislation. Area I is bound by the legislation, and staff right now is working through for us, for the director saying, what does this mean? Because if you don't have water, right, you don't have servicing, you don't have septage, is it logical to be putting additional densification in your acres on top of the aquifer? Where's your septage going?
Wait, I'm
Where is it?
question first.
Oh, sorry. Yes.
So Kelly, I don't think that in Area I, we're going to see new large subdivisions or new areas of land being developed. I think what we're going to see is more of those developed areas having infill happening to them. So maybe there's larger lots that can be subdivided, vacant lots that have yet to be developed. Or as Andy said, maybe there's lots that can handle an additional dwelling unit. So whether that would be a suite or
So we're not
an
ready,
attached dwelling unit. So
we're not ready for 3 to 5 story condos yet?
No.
you okay with that? 'Cause that's one thing in terms of
You need septic.
is we don't
Septic
want-
is just a
we don't-
nightmare. right?
Yeah, we don't want that density. We don't want to see too much change, but we have to balance that because we do have to accommodate our housing needs.
Yes.
And so, the approach this plan takes is instead of developing new areas, having new large scale subdivisions, it's more, is there gentle infill we can add to these areas that will add rental opportunities, places for people to age in place, places for people to live on their family property, instead of picking new zones to develop. So that's more the approach this OCP has taken. And Director Davidoff is correct. In the past, we had a little bit more choice there. Now we do have to at least allow for 2 dwelling units on a property. So at least a house and a secondary suite or a house and a detached suite. So some people call those carriage houses, laneway houses, garden cottages. And that's one of the reasons why we've taken the approach of the short acres development permit, because then we have an extra layer of saying, okay, there's that density is blanketed, but we're gonna have the extra scope of looking at what that means for our servicing, and we can approve or deny permits that way. So that's actually a key reason that the aquifer went the development permit route to protect the aquifer.
So you guys see now that the government has come down, which I actually don't have a problem with allowing for more for what they've done, because we need housing. The issue is when we went out to the communities, every community, the feedback we got was, well, like when we were in Glade, for example, we're talking, or Shreakers, not Glade. Shreakers said, well, how can we have more density here when we have potential aquifer issues in the future? If we keep dumping, you know what, into the aquifer, right?
Yeah.
It's sooner or later, there's gonna be a problem, right? And how much more densification can we have? Boykin subdivision would never happen again. Those are 1/4 acre lots. Every lot has its own septic field. Like, that just wouldn't help. IHA would never allow that to ever happen
Best
again.
practices in this day and age is a hectare,
A
2.5
hectare
acres,
for
if you
septic
have
field.
a septic field, yeah. And we don't have that historically, so
No.
it's something that we have to grapple
Anyway,
with.
I guess what I'm saying is I have no problem with densification if it makes sense. I
With
have a-
servicing.
as long as they're servicing.
Yep.
I have a problem with the opposition of densification. If there's a valid reason, yes. If it's NIMBY, I have a problem with that.
Not in my backyard, maybe. So the key thing is that we have a brand new legislation that staff is wrestling with right now. And as rural directors in particular, we're saying, hey, what happens in Area I with the new legislation? Like, we have no, the government has brought this in.
That's
and-
the issue.
There are people doing it.
Well, there are people
Trucking
do,
in
but
water.
guess what's gonna happen now, Brian? People who have illegal suite, that's also gonna start shifting. Because all of a sudden, if you can have legal suites. And then the people that have the illegal, like, is that gonna go, then there's gonna be more policing? And people are gonna report on each other for illegal suites? I gotta go through the hoops to put a legal suite in my building, in my house, and my neighbor's got an illegal suite. You see the potential tension and conflict that could cause.
Well, too, I mean, the water supply up there. I mean, everyone knows if you're on a system, you've only got so much water.
Yep.
And I know the one I'm on, there's 5 of us. That's not going any farther.
And our bylaws are not as robust as we think they are. If you were to all of a sudden have 5 families move in with 30 members in the family, guess what? Our bylaws don't protect us from that.
No.
They don't protect us from that, but the key thing is that if it was something that health was a.
No, I understand that, but there are other things that
Legislation, yeah.
might help us, but our bylaws don't necessarily prevent us from having excessively large family, numbers in a single home.
I agree.
Not the family, but I think it could be a zoning violation if you were renting out to 12 people in your house.
No, I'm talking about a, traditional Asian family could easily move in and have 15 more people immediately on, in a single lot.
Multi-generational.
Multi-generational.
Yeah, if it was family,
Aunts and uncles.
if it's family, then I don't think we couldn't do anything.
I know, but I'm saying is our protection bylaws aren't as quite
Trying to say-
So what we're dealing with is future land use,
Yeah.
okay? So what we're doing in our OCP, is that this is, I'm referencing, but I'm saying, yeah, how are we gonna deal with the pressure that's gonna be put on staff to say, I wanna put in a carriage house, and planning staff says, you can't do it, because you don't have the service aid.
Yeah.
And then and then the person will say, well, hold on a sec, my neighbor has got an illegal suite, same water license that I have, 500 gallons a day, and they've got a suite in there. So that's what they got the unintended consequence. There's sometimes legislation comes down, but there's unintended consequences that cause a headache for us at the local level. And that's the thing so you're gonna see in our budgets coming up, if you're gonna have this huge influx of people coming to the planning department to do all these things, you gotta hire more planners. And that's an increase in taxation. So then who should be paying for that? Should the developers be paying for that? Then you have development fees. Then all of a sudden you're going to a city model, municipal model.
May I ask a question?
As-
Even if it's
Absolutely.
public? So
Oh,
what,
it's public.
oh, I know, but public time.
There's no such, here, there's.
Ask a question, yeah.
You can ask a question anytime you're like,
For you.
Yeah.
Director Dappa.
Yeah.
So what you were saying about the new legislation and the pressure, so I see a lot of that peachy pink, which is rural residential, and then you have country residential. So if you're talking about new suites or second properties, when I read the rural residential, which is a good part of Upper Pass Creek, it doesn't really say second houses. It just says permitted suites. To me, that means a basement suite or an upper suite in the one structure. But what I've read and heard you say from the legislation
Yes.
is that, oh, you can have a second dwelling if you're on a, like, 10
if you can
acres.
improve service.
Right, if you're on 10 acres where there's no problem with septic and you've got your own water, then you're saying provincial legislation supersedes rural residential.
Now you see why my copy of the draft OCP is all marked up, because I'm saying, how does this legislation impact this section? How does?
So this rural residential could actually say almost C provincial land, new land use reg or whatever.
Donna, how are we gonna deal with this? Like we have.
Well, you can, number 6, the principal use shall be detached homes plus permitted suites. So a permitted suite would be a secondary suite or a detached.
So have you already built in the legislation into this draft?
Yeah.
You think you've got it all covered?
I like that confidence.
Director David.
Yeah, I-
asked for too much. Like,
Yes, I've tried
every
to,
single situation covered.
I've tried to build in the new legislation into this draft.
And
But
I
it's new.
I see
It's
that.
new
but I still
legislation,
have
so
questions.
things are coming, but, you bring forward a really good question. All the residential zones, so you have that peach is the country, the pink is that rural residential, and then there's only a little patch when you look at the Wyken subdivision, suburban residential. Those are the 3 proposed residential designations, and they all are primarily a single detached home, in some areas even a duplex, or a secondary suite, or a detached suite. So we're talking max 2 units. We're not looking at townhomes, apartments, anything like that. But the difference is the density. So we're allowing smaller lots in the suburban residential, so the Boykin subdivision, 1 hectare lots in the country residential, and then larger lots in the rural residential. And so that the future land use designation, the residential is really speaking to the density, maybe more than the uses. The uses may look similar, but the lot sizes are changing. And that's how we can see tighter development in some areas and then more rural areas in other areas in Area I.
Nope, that was fine, I just,
Yeah, Dana, did I read it right that we have 599 vacant properties in Area I? Is that the number, or is it 399?
You have quite a few. If you look up on that map, all the yellow are vacant.
Oh, yeah, because it said, but the
Three,
number was staggering, because I had no idea that we had that many.
588 vacant private
There.
properties.
500
And 88.
vacant properties. So if we want to develop, if we want housing, we want.
They're residential properties,
They're just private,
private residential though,
just private. Not saying they're just residential. Yeah,
so they could be commercial too.
No, not commercial,
just private property.
private property, like commercial, is very limited.
No, but private meaning they're not crown land, they're privately owned
Right.
land. Not, yeah.
So was this mapping thing useful that we did?
Very.
Yeah. Because, and I think, sorry, Dana, I thought if we start with the mapping, like for our work and the people that are here, and it's good to have public here who have, have not seen this before. So then now we can go back and look at every section and say, okay, and then you again take a look at the map again. But we've had the introduction to Area I and what it looked like, where the hazards are, where the future, where all the community values are, where people meet and stuff like that. And now we can actually, so you could see, like, we poured a lot of work into this group and staff. And the key thing is, and we went out and heard what people, our community told us. So now we want to bring something out, say, here is the OCP draft. Now, what do you think? Here's for this future land use plan and pattern. How do you feel about this? That's kind of where we're going, but we're not going out anywhere without a polished product. Not gonna happen. We have to be, there has to be a consensus in our APHC and our working group that, yeah, this thing's, we don't have niggling questions. We kind of have a pretty clear idea that these are our policies that we want to take out for feedback, but it's gotta be a polished product. And we shouldn't do it until we arrive at that point.
And
Yeah.
Anna, your explanation really helped me because sometimes this is overwhelming and intimidating.
That's
Go back.
fair, yeah.
And so when you correlated, so you take that and that goes to section, that really helped me, go, okay.
Yeah, that's good to
Yeah.
hear.
So you have.
Yeah, Andy, so when, like, I was at all the meetings as this progressed at the first and the second.
Yeah, you've been all.
Once you guys come up with kind of what you're gonna go to the public with, it would be nice if you would have another public meeting that you don't have.
Oh, yeah,
You're going,
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
that's the whole point of it.
not like Zoom or it's nice to.
No, public in person, and it'll start here. We'll probably have the first big one here at the cultural center. I think that was the idea. We haven't decided.
Efficient way.
We haven't decided yet. It's like, we're gonna figure out that process.
It's a pretty, like, it's I don't know, like just what I've picked up here and knowing kind of the different communities. It would be nice if you would have a meeting in each kind of area, Pass Creek, because kind of everybody's concerns are a bit different. It's a short little window and everybody's got concerns. It's be nice that everybody gets to have their input and feel that they've actually.
I've recommended that if there's a big staffing
Yeah.
commitment to be able to do that, and that's a big,
But it's an important, long lasting, like I think.
Yeah.
It kind of warrants.
That's
Yeah.
kind of where I'm at too, so I'm just, we're gonna have conversation at the regional district office on this. And the APHC could make recommendations as well, as an advisory group and say, this is what we'd like to see. And
At least-
that may come out of.
At least if it goes to that kind of a format, you're always gonna have people that are gonna be dejected and they're gonna be saying all kinds of negative things about it, but you did make the effort to be inclusive.
Yeah, and you know what? And you saw from the meeting we had here on the climate action.
Yeah.
Like, I have no problem standing for 3 hours, having conversation with people, providing our conversations is respectful, and we're actually talking about stuff and listening and hearing each other, right? That's the piece. But to say we can't talk about difficult stuff, I'm sorry, that's not me. Like, I'm ready to engage in difficult conversations anytime. I welcome them because it's the only way you learn about people's perspective, right? And they may not be, I might not value something as much as someone else does, right? Or I may have a completely opposite personal belief, but that's, right now, I'm a director representing all the constituents in Area I, not one particular cohort of constituents. I represent all the constituents, so everyone's voice is as important as anyone else's, everyone's. So that's why I actually like when we go out to each, distinct community. But it's also good to have like a big meeting. It's a different dynamic at a big meeting as well, like at a town hall. So we got some thinking to do about what is gonna look like coming back to the community. Like, there's a thing in Glade right now, like, we're looking at Glade Regional Park, so we have some funding, we've got some mapping ready for it. We're gonna have a meeting in Glade, like, it was ready to go, staff wanted to do it this week. And I said, it's a little early, we just got all this information, it's on improvements to Glade Regional Park. So, and there was a suggestion that maybe we'll hold the meeting in Terry's. I says, I don't think so. I think we're gonna go to Glade, right? And that's where we're going. We promised Glade, we're coming back to Glade, because they're directly impacted. But was that,
How many years?
how many years is it? Hey, well, it's really weird. It's
3, 4 years?
been 3 years, at least, if not close to, well, COVID messed us up.
Since the first time they came and
4 years ago.
promised us a.
Gonna come back, right? And with the
Wow.
plan and option, and we have them all, everything's done, all the work's done, and the costing's done, and the costing's a little high. But the key thing is that, we're going back, like we promised we would. And these things sometimes just take forever. It's so galling. It just takes so long to do some of this stuff, right? It's painful, but maybe it's a good thing, because then you have time for sober reflection and thought and.
So Andy,
We
it's
gotta
eight,
shut her
it's
down?
after 8:30.
Uh-oh,
So this is
sorry.
what I propose.
Yes.
If there's any burning questions, let's tackle those.
Yeah.
Then as the APC, while we're all in the same room, can we maybe set some time for our next meeting?
Yeah.
Or if you want me to send out a doodle poll or an email later,
No,
I can do
don't.
that, but sometimes it's nice when we're all just all here.
Here, got my
Um,
doodle right here, got my book. You're the
And-
advance.
Any burning questions?
We're-
Oh, yeah,
yeah.
anybody?
We don't wanna leave you hanging. We're really happy that you stayed and that you
So
came,
Was
so.
this helpful? Was this useful was it informative? Was it?
This is the most exciting RDCK meeting I've been to.
Holy. First it's art, and now it's Bill. Joking for.
I like that, Andy.
Are you suggesting?
They're a bit more exciting.
Exciting. Hey, all we gotta do is serve Fireball, we really.
So
And then the only other thing I want to say is just thanks to everyone that is
Oh,
going to or
Bill-
has.
Bill maybe had a question before we.
I didn't.
Oh, you
I had a
did?
comment, but
No, this is the time.
I just wanted to say thank you, in this increasingly sensorial world for allowing all voices to be heard.
Here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
It's
just want to
nice
say
to
I
you.
appreciate everyone for taking a look and reading this. It's not, I'm sure, what you want to be reading at bedtime. But for the APC and for the guests, if you come across any questions, feel free to email those to me. I can tackle them. But just any comments you have or feedback, hold on to those for a meeting because it is best to air those out where in the public space. But if you just have a question where you're like, Dana, I didn't understand this, then feel free to give me a call or an email. We don't have to wait to a meeting if something comes up that just kind of confuses you. I just wanted to say that.
And she's directing that at me because I'm gonna do that because I think there's a whole bunch of stuff. I probably have like 50, 60 questions.
Questions, yes, comments, no.
Not comments.
But I think out of respect for Dana's time.
Yeah.
Not that she says calls are welcome, but I think if they come to her in email form, then she can.
Yeah.
Slot it throughout her day, probably a little more efficiently then.
Sure, yeah, that would be nice. Thank you, Kelly. Sorry, your schedules.
Eight.
Oh, so
Here we go.
Those pressing questions. Next meeting, Andy.
Next meeting. What do you want it, Dana?
You tell me.
We got,
April
today's the 4th. So were you looking at a couple of weeks? Are you looking at a month or what are you looking?
Whenever you feel refreshed and ready to come talk
I'm
to me
ready.
again, I just can't do the first week of April.
Yeah.
I can't do the first week of April.
That's Easter as well.
So we can do before or after Easter, but just not that week.
How about the 25th?
That's a Monday, 3 weeks from now.
Is that too long from now or?
No.
No, works for
That
me.
gives us a chance to ask our questions.
Yeah.
For everyone to look at the plan a little bit more. Will that work or is that
March 25th?
Yes.
March 25th?
I don't know. I'll have to check my calendar.
Here at 6:30.
Yeah, let's make that a tentative.
Yeah, and the other part is that we might be pride book out there. Because if we have more people show up to our meeting, then this room has got no circulation, it's crowded in here, and at least out there we're breathing easier.
So Mondays they have their.
Mondays is quiet.
Mondays is
Oh, yeah,
their
they're-
fire.
Or we boot them, ask them to go upstairs.
I'm in a booting mood, Lisa.
I'm gonna tell you, who has the authority, it isn't, there's one and there's Lisa there, I'll tell you. When they say you're Buddhist.
I'm on the finance asset.
Oh, yeah, there you go. So there you go.
I've got Newton power.
If Lisa says, you guys need to go upstairs, they're not gonna argue.
Yeah, no, I think they're recording or, because they're a remote group, actually, they're tying in guys from, across the province is what the gig is here, it's easier for them. We can go upstairs though, like that's, yeah.
Or
They are recording, so we have to sneak out quiet.
No,
Don't you want to be on the recording?
exactly, yell fireball when you
Well,
go out.
there, we'll start singing some real good stuff.
And just for the members of the public, so our next meeting tentatively March 25th at 6:30. But we'll post it online and we'll also put the minutes of this meeting online. So for anyone that's here, anyone else that could be interested, these meetings are open to the
You're
public.
gonna post these minutes?
No, the minutes.
The
of-
meeting minutes,
Yeah, but they haven't been approved.
once
until-
they're approved.
Yeah,
Once they're
yeah,
Once they're approved.
yeah, or after the 25th.
And Dan, we'll talk with them, and we'll let you know where we'll be.
Yeah, sounds good, sounds good.
Okay,
Okay.
so I want to thank all of you for coming. Everybody, and Dana, thank you very much, like,
You're
staff knows. How do we put it? Area I doing its own thing pretty much, and what's happened is that we ask hard questions, we don't have a problem doing that. And, but we want to do a good job. And we wanna respect voice. And so sometimes that takes more time, and that's just fine. We're not doing something major. We're
Yeah.
trying to mind.
Well, unfortunately, we're all people.
Huh? We are the most
Sorry.
compact electoral area in the province. Province. Yeah, we're like literally, that's not necessarily a good thing. The remember at the town hall, I showed you that one fire that burnt 20% of Area I,
I think the chair wants to say something.
the chair?
Adjourned.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
For your input.
I'll fill Steph in the morning and she'll get in touch with you about the Rural Affairs Committee meeting and the date in April and if you, the whole thing, if you want to be a delegation or just be there.
Yeah, we'll be there.
She'll set you up. Yeah, I'll learn all those and she'll get in touch with you guys. But yeah, thanks for coming, I appreciate it, and thanks for staying, it's great.
It was really good. I'm glad we.
Thanks, you guys do.
Freeze.
Go there.